Hi, I'm Liron Cohen.
And I'm Mimi Torchin.
And you're listening to Lady Parts TV, the podcast.
Whee!
Hello, everybody. This is our third attempt to say hello. Hopefully we get it now. Hi, how are you all doing?
Hello, this is Mimi saying hi. Since I
From
forgot the last
Spaceship
two
Earth.
From Spaceship Earth, exactly.
We only have 9 shows that we tallied this week, and it's because, slim pickings these days, and also we've been binging on an old show that we'll tell you about in a minute.
And all of the fabulous content that we're getting online.
Right.
Oh, yeah, my God, I hope you saw Bombshell.
Bombshell, yeah.
Oh, God, what a glorious event. It brightened up my entire month.
So we only have 9 shows, out of which written or co-written by a woman, 33%, and directed by a woman, 4, which is 44%.
Wow, that's not bad
kind of amazing,
yeah.
All things considered. So we're going to start by telling you about a new movie. It's called Inheritance, and it's coming out May 22nd on digital and on demand. This is how movies are coming out these days.
I think is today May 22nd?
It is today, but for you, we will be talking from the past. So actually, when you hear it, it's already available. It's directed by Von Stein, and written by Matthew Kennedy. And it's starring, I'll start with not the star, but the one that we actually watched it for, which is Connie Nielsen.
I love Connie Nielsen.
Also known as second-rate Olivia Benson.
Call her second-rate. Call her replacement for a few weeks.
Okay,
she's not second-rate. She did her own thing. She did not try to be Mariska.
No, she did not, and I appreciate that. Lily Collins is actually the star of this movie. Simon Pegg is in it, and Chase Crawford, among others. And part of the problem for me, and I'll tell you what it's about, but part of the problem for me is that the movie didn't quite decide what genre it was.
Right.
It was had horror elements, partly a thriller, partly a family drama. So it kind of didn't know what it was. It was doing kind of everything and sort of missing on a lot of them. Lily Collins is the daughter of a very wealthy family. Connie Nielsen is her mother. And her father dies unexpectedly. And in his inheritance, he leaves her a very big secret. Right, that she has to now deal with. And that is all we're going to say about it, because the whole premise is that.
And it's a cool, interesting secret.
It's a cool, interesting secret, and actually the last 30 minutes of the movie were really...
when it came alive.
Yeah, it did. It had a twist, it was interesting, it had energy. I think one of the problems is that the movie needed to be 20 minutes shorter at least.
At least.
It would have helped with the pacing, which was very problematic in the first part of the movie. It would have helped kind of maintain, again, a more energetic pace. And we should have gotten to the point of it a little faster, I think, because once we got to the point of it, it got a lot more interesting.
Much more interesting. And, of course, the other problem is that it was directed on one note until it got to that last 20 or 30 minutes. And Lily Collins, by nature, does not seem to be a very energetic actress. She reminds me a little bit of Rooney Mara, but without Rooney Mara's subtleties that make her so interesting. Mm-hmm. Yes, her subtleties, her edge.
I think also we didn't care about anybody really except for Connie, and we cared about her because we cared about the actress. Yes. They don't really make you care about the character.
I thought from what I read about the film that the mother was going to be the typical cold, rich mother, but she wasn't. She was actually a very nice person.
She wasn't, but she was basically a non-entity until the last 30 minutes.
Right, and that's another reason it got so interesting, because she was involved, and she added a great dynamic to it.
So this might sound like we're not recommending it, but actually it was an interesting film, and in the end, on the whole, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too. If you like creepy films,
it wasn't even that creepy.
It was kind of creepy,
a little bit,
with a mystery to it. I kind of enjoyed it.
It's not a non-recommendation. It's not a dis-recommendation.
It's a kind of a
mixed
damning
review.
with faint praise.
It's a mixed review.
It's a very mixed review from one entity, from two people.
But I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I just wish it had been better.
Yeah, and it could have been better.
Exactly.
I kind of blame the director.
Yeah.
And maybe a little fault of the writer, too. Yeah. I think that things could have been made clearer, or they could have...
shorter.
Much shorter. Shut up, you know?
So this is Inheritance, available right now on digital and on demand.
So jumping to a whole nother plane completely. I remember, actually, this happening. It was in 1991. This is a documentary called Spaceship Earth, and it's about... something called Biosphere 2, which was a replication, a huge, amazing replication of Earth. That was meant to be a 2-year project. That
kind of to give us an escape hatch.
I like to say that these people weren't building a heaven on Earth; they were building an Earth for the heavens.
Interesting.
Because they saw in 81 when this started. Actually, this
81
started...
or 91?
No, the thinking of it started in 81 when they started consulting with scientists. Actually, I think the film starts in 68. And it starts with this very idealistic group of people who find their way to each other. You cannot be cynical about this when you watch it, when you think about it, because... it was pure. It was pure in its idealism, in its conception. These people did not care about making money. They wanted to save the earth. They started off kind of as this strange little group of people who did what looked to me like awful avant-garde theater, but to me, even the greatest avant-garde theater is awful. I hate avant-garde theater. And they became kind of a cult, and they stayed together. They built themselves around John, I can't remember his last name now. He's very important, and he was their charismatic leader, and he took it all the way through to the end. And then when we get into the 2000s, and people who started then as young kids, and they're John Allen, right, 18, 19 when they started together. He was their leader, very charismatic. They did all these kinds of things that none of them were trained for, just because they had a dream and they wanted to do it, and they did it. They built first they built a ranch, and they built this kind of giant yurt. Also,
now leave something for them to actually watch in the movie.
And then no. Then they built a ship, a seagoing ship. None of them knew how to... They weren't shipbuilders, but then they give you a little glance into so-and-so learned how to do celestial navigation. So they must have been all highly intelligent. They studied things. They learned how to do them. They went around the world. They went everywhere you can imagine. They went in this boat. They went by land. They did exploration. But finally, what they really wanted to do was they saw that the planet was going to die. They saw that it was heating up, that man was killing the earth, and they wanted us to be ready to leave Earth when we had to, and take Earth with us. And I'm not going to tell you how it ends, because that's actually they do a very good narrative line on this.
It's a documentary.
It's a documentary, but they managed to do a narrative line. And the only thing that I have to say about the end is that Steve Bannon became involved with it.
Interesting.
And that can
twist.
That can kind of give you an idea of where things went. It was all funded by Rich Texan.
A horror movie.
Yeah, it's a movie about what greed and money and
that old story.
Bad people ultimately do to pure ideas and good ideas and science. Anyway, I found it absolutely fascinating, even though it made my head spin, how these people could do these things. And maybe that's what I kind of missed, was I wanted to know how. I didn't want to just see them accomplishing these things. I wanted to understand how these people who were untrained in these disciplines were able to do all of these things. They had dreams. They worked like dogs. They just made their dreams come true. And it is fascinating. And in this world, up until a certain point, it is good to have something like this. We need something like this. We need people to think this way, and people to move us forward and think about where we're going to go from now after we've killed our planet.
So this is Spaceship Earth. It is available, I think, on Hulu as part of your subscription, if you are subscribed to Hulu, and it is available for pay on other digital platforms, so just look into it. Spaceship Earth documentary.
Thumbs up. Now, here's a show that I started watching about 4 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 6 years ago on a public channel.
The Boston, I think.
It was from actually Providence, I think. That's how... and I stumbled on it, I think, because it must have been towards the end when Wendy Crewson was in it. She's in the there's 4 seasons. She's in the last 2.
All of which, by the way, are available on Amazon Prime.
Everything, yes. And it started in 2004 and ended, of course, in 2008, if you add. It's pure science. And first of all, let me just say it's got a great cast. Peter Outerbridge, again, Wendy Crewson.
In seasons 3 and 4. She's not in the first 2.
And got Greg Burke. I'm not even going to tell you any of the other ones, but it's very good.
Canadian.
It's Canadian. And it's really, David Sandstrom is a world-class geneticist. He is the head scientist of this thing called Norback, and it's all about virology, microbiology. They solve virological, mostly, illnesses around the world.
And bioterrorism.
Anything that has to do with medicine and
epidemics, genetics,
and mystery. And you would think at first glance, because there's tons of scientific jargon, and they're always doodling on their little blackboards and looking through microscopes. They do all of that stuff kind of interestingly, and they manage to explain what they're talking about. And somehow or other, the mystery, the human element, becomes so interesting that you don't worry that you have no idea what they're talking about unless you understand.
Some of us have a little bit of an idea,
yes,
but I do want to say this is kind of a sci-fi show, but it's not really, because it's based in like the near future. They base everything on real science, but they take it to like, where do we expect the science to be in a couple of decades?
See, I don't feel that way.
This is what I read.
Oh, okay, because it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels like it's absolutely in the present.
But when you understand some of the stuff that they talk about, you also see when they take gigantic leaps that currently are not possible at all.
Well, but they also take gigantic leaps because that's how they have to solve these things. And
that's
I think
fine, but some of those things are not...
I'll bet that the science is
And that's what I'm saying.
Correct.
The science is solid, but in terms of some of the things that they say, that some of the things that they try to do in order to solve problems or cure people or all that stuff is currently not stuff that we can actually do. But it's like scientifically, you can take that leap and I'm sure that is how we'll get there at some point in a few years. But right now, it's a little sci-fi.
Yes, it is. But they make it believable. They make you care about the people. Even if they're strangers in South America, you care about them. And it's global. It's problems that happen worldwide or happen right in your backyard. And to me, it's kind of X-Files, but
realistic.
But not, yes, not
because I wouldn't have liked it as much.
And it's not about creatures from outer space. It's about bacteria.
And I feel actually that we should give a trigger alert here.
Yes.
If you are specifically upset about what's going on right now, a lot of this
and who isn't?
Well, yes, but if that, some people we know actually right after everything broke free, went and watched Contagion. So some people actually are looking for things that have to do with the current situation. I don't know how but I guess it soothes them. Some people want to do escapism completely. This is a lot about epidemics, pandemics, germs, bacteria.
Yes, you can't believe that this is something that was, 16 years old.
I think
except that, of course, pandemics have happened.
And all scientists will tell you that they've seen this coming.
The Black Plague and beyond. I mean, who knows? A pandemic probably wiped out the dinosaurs if it wasn't a meteor. So I recommend it.
Oh, wholeheartedly.
I just love it.
Full disclosure, we started with season 3 because we wanted to see Wendy, but now we're going to go back and watch seasons 1 and 2.
I actually watched a couple of seasons 1 and 2 before Lerone became interested in it, and we started watching it.
You watched 2 episodes. We came for Wendy, we stayed for Regenesis.
Yeah.
And I love Peter Otterbridge.
Yes, Peter Otterbridge is wonderful. He's not a very likable character, but he's a wonderful character. He is.
And the show was created, by the way, by Christina Jennings, we forgot to say. And again, all 4 seasons are available on Amazon Prime for you to binge on.
And if you're smart, you will enjoy this.
Well, the nerds especially will really appreciate it.
You science nerds will enjoy it very much.
Unless you're going to go crazy and say, no, that's impossible.
But you don't have to be a science nerd.
You don't have to be at all. Now, a little heads up, starting today, which again for you is yesterday, on Amazon Prime, Homecoming, the 2nd season, is available. It's 7 episodes this time, not 8, 30 minutes each, by the way, created by Micah Bloomberg and Eli Horowitz. This season, instead of Julia Roberts, we have Janelle Monáe.
Who I like.
Stefan James is still there, Hang Chau. And joining the cast this season is Chris Cooper and Joan Cusack. I love Joan Cusack. Now, if you've watched the first season, we loved the first season, even though it was very kind of disturbing and
extremely
right,
disturbing.
But it was very compelling, very well done.
And Julia Roberts was so brilliant, and so was Stephen James. He was just amazing.
And the concept was very, very cool, and I felt that in the end it was very satisfying, even if it still left it open, which is what they are building on in season 2. And we have not watched it yet, but I have to tell you, I've seen the reviews and they are pretty unifyingly awful. With the main complaints being that it's a very repetitive season. It's not really adding anything new to the first season, but it's not doing what the first season did well. They're not doing nearly as well.
So they're not doing an anthology.
It's supposed to be an anthology, but what they did was, so Janelle Monáe, the season starts with her waking up in a canoe with no memory of how she got there or even who she is. And so, the mystery will continue to unfold, but it's not an anthology where a different story happens every season. I guess it's just a different person whose story it's going to be, but part of the same bigger conspiracy.
Ugly picture.
Right. So, again, one of the complaints was that Janelle Monáe's character was not as well fleshed out, or that it doesn't really go anywhere.
It's too bad, because it was really compelling last year. Oh my God.
And from what I've seen, really everybody kind of agrees. And one reviewer even says, watch it, but please know that if it weren't my job, I wouldn't be watching this. So
we're going to watch at least.
We're going
to
try it. Yeah, we're going to try
definitely.
it. So, Homecoming season 2 is on Amazon right now, and we would love to hear what you thought of it if you are in the process or already finished binging. And now for dessert, we have two shows that have come back in new seasons, and we are just so disappointed. So we're going to tell you about them.
The first one, now you know how I felt about, if you've been with us for any length of time, you know that Penny Dreadful was one of my favorite shows. It was so brilliant. The idea of taking these horror characters from literature, from great literature, and weaving them into this tale of 19th century life, with the fabulous Eva Green and many other wonderful people in it. I was just transfixed by it. So needless to say, I look forward to this year's. And this year's takes place in 1938 in Los Angeles. It's about, the terrible police force, famously in Los Angeles, racist, the object of the hate of these mostly white policemen are Mexicans. I immediately am sympathetic. I grew up on the Mexican border, and Mexico and Mexicans are in my blood. It's created again by John Logan. It's got a very good cast. Nathan Lane is fantastic as a cop. Natalie Dormer, Amy Madigan, Daniel Zavato, Adriana Barraza, who doesn't have a huge part, but you would remember her from things that you've seen in the past. She's just a great, great actress, Rory Kinnear and Brent Spiner. Now, here's the thing that I really found distasteful. At the center of it is a woman. It's mostly men, but there is a woman at the center of it, Natalie Dormer. And Natalie Dormer plays about 6 or 7 different characters. I think we've gotten up to about 5 of them now. But what she is the personification of pure evil. And each of her characters becomes a catalyst for different, mostly men, because she's quite beautiful, to do something, to turn to evilness. There's a lot to do about Nazism, latent Nazism in America, nascent, because it's around, it's during the war. And I found it offensive that and also Amy Madigan is an evil wench. There are very few women that are decent in this. There are very few anybody who's decent in this. Nathan Lane, his detective partner, who's the first Mexican detective. It's interesting. I don't know yet exactly where it's going to end, but it is not last season's Penny Dreadful. It does not compel you.
Is it dreadful?
It's not dreadful. It's worth a little bit more than a penny, but it just is a disappointment to me. It's not bad. The production values are spectacular. It evokes the season brilliantly. There's some very, very good performances. It's I think I'm just so tired of prejudice. I'm so tired of evil trying to seep in and turn everything to its ugly side. I think that with the way our country is, the way our world is, I think that the horror of Trump trumps every horror that you can see on television. And this, to me, is kind of an echo of that. So I wouldn't say don't watch it. If you like the genre, it's very interesting. It does have supernatural elements in it. Natalie Dormer, I think, is cold. Anyway, if you like this kind of stuff, I'd say give it a look. But if you're expecting last season's Penny Dreadful, you will be disappointed, I think.
Another show that we found extremely disappointing, and I'm not even talking about the level of disappointing that you just mentioned, I'm talking about so deeply disappointing, is the new season of Killing Eve. And, last season I was wary when it started because I was like, oh, enough. So Villanelle is just killing everybody now, and we're supposed to say, oh, ha, 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 how great. You just murdered somebody and slaughtered them. And
even if they're bad people,
no, it's
you
disgusting.
Don't want to see slaughter. Well,
no. Especially when it's over and over and over and over again. But at some point it becomes completely gratuitous, and she doesn't discriminate. She kills anybody and everybody
with glee.
With glee and
glee.
Yeah. And so last season it started off also with me kind of worrying, where is this going? And it ended up being quite good. This season, I think we've already watched 3 of them. And when I say we've already watched, I mean I had to really
dragged ourselves through 3 of them.
And first of all, I'm bored.
It's boring.
It really is boring. And secondly, I'm just tired of seeing Villanelle. At this point, she's like a caricature of herself.
They're all caricatures except Eve. Eve is not a caricature, but she doesn't really compel me at all. Carolyn,
Fiona
Shaw. I find her a loathsome woman as well.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to root for.
No, and there's nothing to even really. It's not even interesting.
Yeah, it's not
point.
Cold War anymore. It's
nothing is happening.
It's just killing people.
It's just Villanelle
in
going around
costumes.
killing people, right?
Yeah.
Right, and again, they feel like they keep needing to up the ante on the creativity of how she kills people. I'm bored. I'm frankly quite disgusted.
Yes, she was so fascinating. What a fascinating character she was, and now she's just
they flattened her out,
completely.
Made her into one-dimensional.
There's
character.
nowhere for her to go unless she reforms,
and there isn't even really anywhere for their relationship to go. And now, granted, you might be ahead of us and think, "Oh no," but continue watching.
Yeah.
They'll,
we'll give it one more. I'm willing to give it one more shot, but if I don't feel better, that's it.
Yeah, because I really don't think that their character has their relationship has far to go, and I'm pissed. Sometimes things have to know when to come to an end, even if they're so successful that it's very tempting to keep going.
And I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm also confused.
But part of the reason why we're confused is because they can't grab our focus. And so we find ourselves looking at our phone and talking and going to pee and other things. And I'll just say, just keep rolling. I'll come back, because why waste time on holding it? So, yeah. Now, if you, again, have different thoughts, feelings, etc., please let us know. ladypartstv@gmail.com. Always happy to hear from you. And for now, we're signing off. And we already have our next podcast planned for next weekend. So join us then again.
All right.
Be safe.
Be happy.
Bye.